Hello and welcome to the 160th of the Second Photography Podcast. Today's episode is about anamorphic lenses and anamorphic shooting. I'm a big sci-fi fan, I'm a big geek. I like things like anamorphic looks, and I always have. And to recreate an anamorphic look, it's always felt a bit beyond me. It's always felt a bit difficult. And it was sort of thing that you need to get something right in camera. You can do editing in Photoshop to have a go and do what you need to, but it's really difficult and you need to get it right in camera. So you need an anamorphic lens. Now, anamorphic lenses cost a fortune, absolute fortune, or they did. You can do things like use old cinema projector lenses and adapt them and mount them on certain mirrorless cameras. You can go that way. You can buy an anamorphic cine lens, but recently anamorphic lenses have come into the consumer world. Hooray! I've got one. I've got a very cheap one. I've got one on order, and I've got one that I would love to have, but probably won't ever get. So let's talk about those now. So I have an anamorphic lens for my smartphone, and it works well. It works well. And I mean, it's not, I'm not going to create any J.J. Abrams videos with it, but it does work well. I would say snaps on your smartphone, but it doesn't quite. It will go on any smartphone. It comes with a lens, a case and an adapter. So the adapter is metal and you screw it onto your you screw it onto your mobile and you slot the lens in and you've got anamorphic. Then when you use your video or your camera on your smartphone, it's going to look weird and it's not going to look right. But if you use certain apps, they have anamorphic settings within. So Filmic Pro has an anamorphic setting where it desqueezes the footage so it records correctly, and Moment also has this. So I tend to use the Moment app because I can do video and photography with anamorphic. Due to my phone, I can't use it on the front facing camera, only on the back camera. It seems to crash if I try that, and I don't think the settings work for the front camera. But that's really not a problem because I'm unlikely to do an anamorphic selfie and I'm unlikely to do an anamorphic vlog. It's not really me. I don't think it's worth it or would be any good. So I can get that anamorphic look without going for just cutting off the top and the bottom in editing. I don't think that's anamorphic. So you get more in your frame. Essentially, the anamorphic lens squeezes more vision or field of view into your frame, and then it gets de-squeezed in software or in editing, and you just get more in that sort of wider frame, and it looks amazing. It looks really good. It can make really dull things look better. One of the trade-offs with anamorphic lenses is if there are bright lights, you get this sort of streaking effect, and that's a side product or a consequence of the anamorphic process, but people like it. It looks good, or we've come to know that it looks good. And to a certain degree, you get that with the mobile anamorphic lens. So that's the mobile one. I've ordered one for the Osmo Pocket, not because I have an Osmo Pocket, but because I have a Fimi Palm. So I'm going to stick it on the front of the Fimi Palm, and I'm going to experiment with getting good footage with the Fimi Palm. I don't know whether I will, but I think it's worth a go. So using my mobile lens, I can get photos and I can get video. With the Fimi Palm, I'm only going to ever go for video. Now, recently, lenses have come out for Micro Four Thirds that are anamorphic, and they're about £500, £600, £700. I'm probably not going to get one of those because I don't really do enough anamorphic stuff to justify that. I'm not shooting small budget films. I'm not doing sci-fi videos. I don't think I get my return on investment. And I don't think I would do everything with an anamorphic lens anyway. There's a time and a place for an anamorphic lens. Maybe if you want to do a nice establishing shot, you might use an anamorphic lens, but then you're probably going to switch back to your conventional lenses. So as much as I would love an anamorphic lens for my Micro Four Thirds camera, I'm probably not going to get one. It's something I might hire one day, something I might give a go if I can find someone that hires it. But I've looked and I can't find anyone who seems to hire it out, which is a shame. But I would love to try it, have a go of it and see what it's like. Is anamorphic any good for photography? I think it can be. I think it can look good in certain instances. It will look better at nighttime when you've got those lights and the reflections and stuff and all the other things that are associated with anamorphic. If you want to get a certain look for a photograph, a movie look for a photograph, or a cinematic look for a photograph, it's certainly worth doing. But let's not kid ourselves. The primary focus of using an anamorphic lens is more video centric than photography. So hopefully my anamorphic lens for my Fimi Palm will come today and I can have a go of that and see what it's like. But I just wanted to really talk about anamorphic lenses and how I feel they finally come to the consumer domain. But what do you think? Would you use an anamorphic lens, or is it just a fuss over nothing? Do let me know. Thank you. Goodbye.